Welcome to the Nurturing Fathers podcast, a show dedicated to helping men succeed at the most challenging and rewarding job they'll ever have, being a dad. Your hosts are Mark Perlman, the creator and founder of the Nurturing Fathers program, and his son, Corey Perlman, who facilitates the program at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary and is also a father of 2 young children. It's time to add tools to your Nurturing Fathers toolbox. Mark and Corey, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nurturing Fathers podcast. We are beyond excited to have a guest with us today that we're going to introduce in just a second. But I'm always excited for my other guest, my compadre, my father, my pop, Mark Perlman. Are you there?
I'm here and I'm doing great. And I am also excited about our guest today.
Awesome.
Very special.
Yeah. So we've talked about in years past, Dad, that the Nurturing Fathers program is a global movement. And we don't say that term global lightly. And we've been as far as India and many continents throughout the world. But when we got this email from this gentleman, we were blown away and super excited that he's going to help bring the Nurturing Fathers program to Africa and build communities and strengthen communities to the work that he's already doing there. And so we have Ola Akinwe on the call with us today, who has very quickly become my brother in arms, a lifelong friend, and someone that I can't wait to meet face to face one day. Ola, are you there, my friend?
I'm super excited to be here, my brother. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm so happy to be part of this Nurturing Fathers program global movement. It's indeed a great movement, and it gladdens our hearts from Africa that such movement is coming to us at such a great time as this. And I'm excited, like I said, to be here to enjoy this conversation.
All right, well, we're going to jump in. We always start out, Ola, by asking our guest, just like Dad started the Nurturing Fathers program, about telling history or his story. So we want to know from you how you came to be the man you are today, who you are, who your family is, and how you came into the work that you're doing today with B-Man.
Thank you, Corey, and thank you, Dad, which I call my dad now. That's Mark Perlman. My story is very unique in a sense, and I love to begin my story by telling everyone, every audience, that I don't do what I do because I want to make my family proud, or to make my nation proud, or to make Africa proud, or to make the world proud. The work I do it because I want my family to be proud of me. I want my nation to be proud of me. I want Africa to be proud of me. And I want the global community to be proud of what I do or what I'm doing right now. My journey into being a man is a very challenging journey in the sense that I came from a polygynous family, which is more or less a polygamous family, like the African settings of families. My father had 3 wives. My mom is the second wife, who had a first marriage before getting married to my dad. She had 2 sons before her second marriage. And my dad had 17 children. So it was a bit of difficulty growing up, not seeing your father regularly. He comes to us like a visitor. He's not a man you see every day, or you live in a house that is with you all of the time. So the most emotionally painful part of his life is such that he was alcoholic. So every day he's drunk. At least 6 days in a week he's drunk. And that's how I grew up to know him. There were no really examples that you could say, oh, this is an example of a father that I want to really emulate or I look up to. So that virtually affected me as a child growing up. I sent a speech where I mentioned that I remember at a point when I was in the ninth grade, I was going to school. And in the morning, the night before the morning, my father was drunk and has fallen into the gutter and slept there overnight. My classmates were going to school. They have to point at where my dad was in the gutter. That was how painful and labeling it was for me. So having that kind of childhood experience, you now have a family that's more or less like a rivalry because the first wife, the second wife, the third wife were basically into competitions. So the children were in a rivalry childhood environment. There were no love. So love was completely absent. Every member of the family was suspicious of each other. That is the kind of home I came from. It was tough, though, growing up. So at a point in time, he couldn't even provide for anyone in the family because he was drunk most of the time. I can't remember at a point in my life where my dad bought me a pant or a trouser. I can't recollect at a point in my life when I proceeded on holiday or a family fun or a family holiday with my dad. It was never, ever in my experience. But while I was age 11, my father had an uncle who lived in a different city. My mom had always wanted us to emulate the lifestyle of that man. So it took me away from the village to live with my dad's uncle. And the concept of the family I saw was way different from what I've had for the first 11 years of my life. And that changed my perception about how family should look like. That, to me, was more or less a model that I saw and I wanted to emulate. Now, coming to that's the story of my childhood. And for my family right now, majority of my brothers, sisters, some are still having it tough with having a different paradigm of a family. Some of them are struggling because the model of the family that was impressed on their subconscious growing up is still affecting the way they relate or rule or govern their families right now. And you couldn't blame them because this is a model they were exposed to. This is what they see work. But I think I was gracious enough to be able to see a different model, which from age 12, I began to ask myself, having seen the first type of model of a family, which you have rivalry, you have competition, you have not anybody providing for you, you have to fend for yourself, your mom have to fend for everything you eat. There was not that emotional bonding of children coming together as a family. And I saw a different one at the second plane of my life when I was entering the second plane at age 12. I thought to myself at that early age that this second model of family would be the type of model of family I would want to run and when I become a man or an adult. Though there have been challenges, but that's to my father and to my family. How I came to the work I do right now with the Boys Mentoring Advocacy Network. At a point in my life, I loved teaching and teaching children. So I got engaged and partnered with establishing a private school here in Lagos, Nigeria, in mid-2000, that's about 2005. And while I was there as the pioneering administrator of this, I saw the model of families, how they neglect their children so much. So that neglect I had at the early stage of my life I do not want the children or the pupils of that school to experience such neglect. So by 2007, I bought a book written by Jack Canfield, Principles of Success. And that book, I had to save my lunch for 2 weeks to be able to purchase the book. After I purchased the book, I took the book into my bedroom. I locked myself in there. I consumed the book from the first page to the last page. At the point in that book, Jack Canfield refers to his readers, help us start a movement. And I said to myself, oh, fantastic. By 2007, I started a movement called Success for Kills Seminars with an African map as the image. So the idea was to bring all these children between the age of 8 and 13 together once every month and begin to teach them each of the chapters in the book, Success Principle by Jack Canfield. So I was able to break it down into the language they could assimilate at that particular time, the language they could understand. So I did that for about 10 years. Some of my students are in the grad school right now. Some are medical students right now. In fact, some sent messages here and there to say thank you. Their parents were happy. So I continued with Success for Skills seminars until 2015. I felt that, look, this place is too comfortable for me. I need to expand. Like a natural human being, we want to expand. So I had this cousin, the only son of my dad, uncle that I lived with, lived in London. And I told him, look, I would love us to come together to run a secondary school, which I will be able to have access to more of these teenagers. As at that time, I've been able to see there's a widening gap between boys completing secondary education and girls completing secondary education. So the fallout of boys is increasing more and more day in there. And I realized because there is no inspiration and motivation, that is why these boys are dropping out of school. So I needed a larger platform where I can relate with these boys every day, and I can bring other boys together so that we can have discussions about generally mentorship for boys. By 2016, I started the Teen Spring. I call it Teen Spring, bringing the boys and the girls together, and I was offering a mentoring program for them twice a month. Absolutely at my expense. I provide drinks for them, I provide snacks for them, and it was a bit challenging. Corey, I have to tell you, because in this part of the world, you hardly find anybody funding such a kind of organization because you are trying to change the norms. You are trying to redefine life. And where I was offering this was, if you come to my house in Nigeria, was a suburb of the city. And this is where the works really are. This is where you need to do the work, because this is where these people will migrate to the mainstream of the city. So when I started Teen Spring, it was running smoothly. I was privileged to have some of these online materials. I break them down into learning materials. So by 2017, I felt I should just have a deeper knowledge in instructional design. So I enrolled in a course in EDX with the University of Maryland University College to go in for instructional design model. By the time I was done with that, I realized I could break some of the videos online. I could use them as a resource material, which I entrenched into the training curriculum for the kids, and they worked well. But by 2017, I realized that more of these boys are having more issues falling out of schools than girls. So it got to a point, I got a boy who had missed school for like 4 years. Why? Because this is the key here. This boy, the mom brought her son that, oh, this boy is not be going to school and they don't have money to even enroll the boy in school. So they are put him in public schools, and the public schools have indoctrinated the boy with kind of behaviors that is no longer acceptable for the mother. Precisely, it was actually going in the wrong direction. So the mother had gone to find out what kind of person can I hand over my son to that can actually influence his life. So somebody had recommended me to the mom that go look for Ola, and if you can persuade him, no matter he's kind of a generous guy, he won't turn you down. Just when you get there, make sure that look, you will find compassion with him and all that. And of the truth, she came with a son. I didn't hesitate to admit the boy into the school. I did that, but not long. Something happened. Money were missing in the school. Things were missing in the classroom. And every Wednesday, there's the sporting classes. So on a Wednesday, some of his classmates went back into the classroom and caught him stealing from his classmate in the classroom while others are playing soccer on the field. He had gone to another student's bag, took money from there. They got to me. And my way of life is a total expulsion for me once I find any student stealing. So I called the mom immediately. Your son is going on expulsion. The mom ran to me, and quite fortunate, the father was all right. So the father equally came to me. And when the father got to the office, the thing I saw him, the first thing he did, he knelt down as a man, and he was weeping. And he wept seriously. He said, Ola, my son had not stolen. I have stolen. I said, what? He said, I was a middle manager with a telecommunication company until I was retrenched. And I abandoned my family for 4 years. I didn't come back to them. I left them. So my absence is what has led my son to pick bad behaviors, to become a thief. Whatever sanction you want to sanction my son, put that sanction on me. I love you. I want my son to be with you. What else will I say, Corey? Should I reject a man that is full of repentance, that accepted his weaknesses, his neglect of his family? Not so much, but I ended up telling him, okay, you will go home with your son for a week suspension. Now it's no longer expulsion. Then you're going to talk to your son, and it's going to change. So I immediately called the entire classmate of this young boy, and I explained to his classmate, look, this boy has a brilliant beginning. His father was a big middle manager that enjoyed the beautiful things of life as a child. Now all these things were suddenly withdrawn from him. Nobody explained to him why. Nobody told him why he should change schools from a schools where sons of governors are attending to a public school. How did life change for him? The father could not explain. All the meals, the milk, the beverages suddenly disappeared. These are the things he was used to as a young boy. Now he's craving for it. No one is providing for it. So looking for the other way to get money to go get it is because it has impressed on him from as a child that you have right to all of this. So it took me time to convince his classmates, and they all pardoned him when I invited him back. They all worked alongside with him, and he openly confessed and make an oath, promise he will never ever steal again. And I restored him back, make him my son. So the following Friday, I put up a letter to all the parents that look, henceforth, I'll be running a mentoring program for all the boys in the entire school and the entire community. And that is what gave back to Boys Mentoring Advocacy Network.
Yes, that is a beautifully told story. You know, I see, Ola, that you are trying to become the father that you want to be, which would be different than your own father and different than the cultural model in Nigeria. Could you describe the kind of father that you would like to see Nigerian men become? What kind of father are you trying to create? What are some of the elements of that? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that question. And I think I appreciate that. You see, basically, when you look at the word father, it's from a Latin word, which means pater, means someone who has been engendered with the responsibility of being a male parent. So the fundamental role of a father is universal, which are to provide, to preserve, and to protect. But here in Africa, the culture of male dominance is still prevalent among men here, which has given rise and is still giving rise to a situation where fathers are seen as lords. They are all knowing in their families, and this is an idea I want to change because fathers primarily to be a model of good examples, not only to their children, but to the entire society. When you talk about fatherhood, if the father means to care, to rear, and to provide, the hood means to cover. That's what hood is meant for. Until we see men who become the genuine covering for their entire family and community, that is the kind of fatherhood I'm hoping and I'm eager to see we shift our attention to, not just to become the dominant father that culturally we inherited from our fathers.
So when I created this program called Nurturing Fathers that we sent you copies of, and I was so happy to do that, because I know I'm putting it in the hands of somebody who will use it well, however you choose to use it. I'm convinced that you will use that well. When I created that, Ola, in America, I called it Nurturing Fathers, knowing that that would not be immediately acceptable to the culture, that nurturing was considered a mother thing. But I knew, being the father of Corey and his brother, that there were parts of me that were nurturing as well. And I felt that that was true of every man, that we have nurturing potential. It may or may not be the same as mom, but to nurture our children are those same qualities that you're defining, to help them grow, to keep them safe, to show them that we love them, to be a role model for them. So I was hoping to move the culture so that nurturing fathers would be a not only acceptable, but in some ways an ideal version. So I wonder if nurturing is part of what you see African fathers embracing.
Yes, Dad, it is going to be what we need to embrace right now. Because when it comes to nurturing, is our current fatherhood ideal system in nature or in nurture? Now, if it is a nurture, it means we may have been nurturing in a system that does not fit into the modern day father's responsibilities. Because the traditional African father, who is the landlord, and the wives are the work on the farm with him is way different from the culture of the men we have today, whose wife are now a white-collar job, working in offices, professional women working in the office. And would that shift this kind of dominance? Yes, it should. But in the long run, what we want to see is fathers who are nurturers, not fathers who want to dominate. Because the collective nurturing of fathers to their children, if, for instance, I never had the opportunity to see another model of father, I would have repeated the same model of fatherhood that I saw within the first plane of my life. Would you blame my fathers for that? No. Is that the best? No. Can we get the actual system of fathering that our children will love, will embrace, and we will love, and we'll probably be glad? Yes. How do we do it? It's balancing the cultural differences, where the Western culture has given the nitty-gritty of how to develop or nurture children. We look at what the current culture is having as a model to raise, I don't like to use the word raise, to cultivate children. That when we have these two together, we can have a balanced family, raising a balanced son or children that would be positively contributing to a thriving society. And the reality is this, sir, most of the fathers movement that we have in Africa is not structured like what is in the Nurturing Fathers program. Some is just a biblical, for those in the religious circle, there's a pattern in the Bible that, that is the best. Those in Islam have their own pattern in the Quran, which they all equally follow. But we are talking about the end point of the next generation of men. It is as we raise them, they will raise their children. As we cultivate them, they will cultivate their children. So having the Nurturing Fathers curriculum in Africa, as it is well structured, addresses the need of nurturing fathers across all race. And that's the beauty of the work of the Nurturing Fathers curriculum. That's why I'm so delighted when I've gone through them. I said, wow, this should be in every institution. Male nurturance should be part of the education curriculum from the second phase of development. And that should be the movement of the Nurturing Fathers program. It's not a program to be given to a particular set of people. It's a program that is universally acceptable, irrespective of your religion. And if we all take this as a structured program to cultivate ourselves and develop or raise our children, and can confidently speak that we will have a generation of men that will be at peace with their families, and that their children will be glad that they have this or that as their fathers. So you've done brilliant work, Dad. You've done a great work in there. And I'm glad that in the US, virtually everyone has embraced this. It has become a national program. Here, it may take us a little while because it's going to be an individual effort initially. And knowing fully well that you are coming to confront some cultural differences, any change will begin at a point. What I actually want to see is for men who will stand up to be men.
Yes.
For men who will stand up to see their children, their sons, their daughters, to become an enviable member of the society, a noble member of the society. Fathers, this cannot be achieved. The question, therefore, is this, and it's the truth, and I stand to be corrected. Most African men need to be transformed so that they can raise a transformed generation. But the gap, the number of men that are transformed, that can even transform the society, there are very few there. There are very, very few.
Although Nigeria and Africa is unique in some of the ways that you're saying, Ola, there is universal issues very similar to what you're saying. When we started nurturing fathers in America about 24 years ago, it was a different culture than it is now. Because in every country and every culture, Ola, men and women, but men are questioning the role of men and the role of fathers. And one of the questions is, how is this working for me? You know, my health and my well-being, how's it working for my children and families? So the question is being discussed in just about every country and every culture on this planet, that question. So you are basically I don't want to say a revolutionary, but you are an inspiration and a new voice that is speaking to that in Nigeria.
Many other voices are coming up, and right now I've been able to pull an association together so that we're going to have these voices across the nation. It's going to take a while. We may not achieve the immediate result you have achieved in 24 years, but what you have done in 24 years, if you've been able to give it to us, and we're starting with that, it means in 4 years we should see a substantial difference, impact in the life of these men. So what we need to do, and what we are going to do, is for us to begin with men right now. And when I mean men, we're going to look at those who are entering into fatherhood in the next 2-3 years, so that this knowledge is already ingrained in their system. This knowledge is already part of them. And possibly, if we can fade off their memories of the kind of childhood model they've got, we can change this with this model. What we will get in the nearest future is that we will see men who will be voices in their community. Is it that we don't have some right now, but they are not as much as we should have them? And this is why such a Nurturing Fathers program is timely. It's a need that is meeting the time. Let me put it that way. And working together with you, and maybe in the nearest future, bringing you to Africa to ensure that this is not an African thing. This is a global thing. The challenge of fatherhood has gone beyond a cultural thing. It's a global thing. And right now, the world is a global village. So what happens in Florida is influencing what is happening in Nigeria the next day. And as a matter of fact, the need for, like you earlier said, the gender roles of what is the responsibility of a father, what are their basic functions in the family and all that. Statistics are proving it over again and again and again and again. And you have it in the Nurturing Fathers curriculum. And saying that, boys, children who don't have fathers growing up with them, the chance of them being vulnerable is very, very high. So if we, as men, who admit this, as when there is a boy in a prison, it is because we fail in our responsibilities. That is when we'll begin to have a change of the kind of society we want to develop or we want to create.
I'm blown away by this conversation. I can't wait for the world to hear it. I'm going to be the fastest editor in the world to get this out. But I want to kind of summarize and head downhill here with a question to you, and then maybe an opportunity for you to introduce us to whomever's in the room with you. But tell us a little bit about your fathering style. And I'm specifically interested in some of the things that you feel like in Nigeria that maybe some of us, on the Western side of the world, maybe coming up short in a little bit, So what maybe some things you've learned in your culture and the way you do fathering that might help me as a dad in the United States?
When you look at the laws in your society, in the Western society, it empowers the children. Yes. But when you see come to Africa, the elders seems to have the say here. You still believe that your dad, despite that he has the best interest for you, he can even shave your head while you're not there.
Uh-oh.
Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's still this fathering myth that, oh, the father knows best for the son. And sometimes when you look at African parenting, it's one of such like the discipline is very harsh, like what it is over there. And why it is being harsh is that there is a standard cultural way of behavior. But in the Western culture, some of the things kids will do there that you just overlook is a grievance offense here. One of the area. But all in all, when it comes to physical abuse, you can negotiate it in the Western world. It's punishable to the dad or the parent. But here you can still get away with it. That's the truth. Because we felt that it's still normal. I could still hit my son, kick him, give him a slap. You understand? And that's the way it's still being perceived that you are cultivating a child or you are developing a child. Because you have laws, established laws that have made this an offense which is punishable. But here, the laws are still flexible. Not many children will even call to report their father for abusing physically. But in your society, it's one call away.
But it's been a long road in our society about corporal punishment and hitting children, and it is not finished. It's a long road that is still not finished. You're right. We have laws, and you can't hit a child in school. And, America is beginning to wake up, Ola, to the fact that maybe hitting children is not a good teaching method. Nurturing is a different kind of teaching method that helps the child grow up to be all that they are capable of being. Whatever God gave that child, nurturing, fathering brings out in that child. But children are different. But hitting is not considered a good way to do that. It's not a successful way to do that. And sometime in the next generation or two, they will look back and say, they were hitting children to teach them to do the right thing. And that doesn't make any sense, hitting children, because you don't want your children to hit other people. So you're absolutely right. But that's a slow cultural change, but it will happen eventually.
It will, yeah. My own style of parenting, like Corey has, I don't believe in hitting children. Because once you hit a child, you approve of that child hitting another person, like you said. So I don't buy into that at all. I buy into a system where you can lovely and positively correct a child. No child born behaving responsibly. They have to watch us behaving responsibly for them to become responsible.
Right.
But the reality or the truth in this is such that the model of parenting that we inherited, this is not the first, this is for generations. I do not know, probably research will have it, that it's going to be genetical, having to hit children, because this has been passed on from one generation to another.
It's true. It goes with the dominant controlling model.
Exactly.
But, in America, many fathers, that was the only tool they felt they had. They didn't know anything else. What Nurturing Fathers gives them is a whole bunch of other tools, a whole bunch of other ways to teach children and to manage behavior, a whole bunch of different ways to do that. So you don't need physical punishment to do that. And like you say, they're more loving and they're more nurturing and they're more effective, ultimately.
That's why the Nurturing Father program is exceptional, because some of these things is going to be difficult for them to accept. I know that, because the reality is that the man in the house feels he's everything and nobody overrules or outturn my laws or rules. Once I've given this, that is the standard. And that is what I want to happen. But we will continue until we make them see, look, we are not challenging your stereotypical belief, but we have a better model that if you embrace, it still gives you the same opportunity and you become even better off at raising or cultivating children.
That's right.
Once we're able to make this old parenting harsh style obsolete and make this friendly, lovely parenting style embracing.
It's an educational process.
It's an educational process.
It's the opportunity to grow, but we let the father decide what suits him. But at least he's exposed to this whole new way of seeing it. And most men that we have dealt with in America take a good part of that and change. In fact, some of the people that Corey has met, they use the word transformation because it can be a transformative experience. Men need that. And many men know in some place inside them that there may be better ways, there may be different ways, but they have never been exposed to it.
Bring in your family if you want. We'd love to see it. Yesterday, Dad, I mean, I don't know what his secret is, but he had Richard sitting on his lap for the 45 minutes we were talking. I can't get Milo to sit on my lap for 20 seconds. How'd you do that? There he is.
There's Richard.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Richard. Nice to see you.
And look at that smile. And there's his wife. Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Who's that?
This is my stepson, Adelu.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. How old are you?
I'm 12 years old.
12 years old. So for the folks that are listening in on this podcast, we are looking at Ola's beautiful family that's come over to say hello to us. 2 sons and his beautiful wife, who's a school teacher. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
A certain grade, Oma? A certain grade in school?
I deal with preschool.
Okay.
And I take elementary classes as well.
Tell us real quickly, if you don't mind, I'll put you on the spot here, but tell us about Ola as a father.
Okay. Well, I wasn't quite expecting that. But, well, not just because it's recorded or something. I think he's actually doing very great. He's very teachable. It's very amazing. For most African men, sometimes there's this ego. But for him, he's very humble and always very willing to learn even from the children. So it's really very amazing. He's doing a pretty job. He's doing well. I would say he's doing well with the children.
That is so nice. So nice.
That is.
Yes, that's the feeling I've got from Ola from this hour conversation we had, just as you described, Oma.
It's an ongoing journey that we're always on, right, Ola? We know we're never done. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's the most important job we do, and there was not much education for it. So
that's true.
We want to hear from you guys. Do you guys have anything to say? You guys want to, this is a podcast. It's going to go out to at least 5 extra people. So you're going to be famous.
I think we're good. We're glad to be part of this podcast, and we look forward for subsequent opportunity like this to be able to air our views and contribute immensely to the growing needs of fathers in homes and having the ability to be part of the Nurturing Father Global Movement. We are so glad you're part of this.
Well, as of this moment, you are a part of the Nurturing Fathers Global Movement.
Yes.
As excited as you are to have you as a part of that. And Corey and I will help you do your good work in Nigeria and all of Africa, hopefully.
Oh, thank you, Dad. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you all. Very, very nice. Thank you.
We're truly the lucky ones. I mean, for those of you who can't see this, there's just big smiles on everybody's faces and just such a sweet, sweet family, loving family. I can't wait to physically meet you guys one day. It would be a dream come true.
Yes. We are attracted to each other by the divine order. This is a long-time family relationship. I should tell you that. Absolutely.
Dad, we're basically the same age. We're pretty close in age, Ola and I. Low 40s.
Yeah.
Corey's got two children. Talia is 10 years old, the daughter, and Milo, the son, is 6.
I want to thank you for the picture you sent, Corey. That was amazing, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a chance to get our families together. Thank God for these virtual opportunities so that we can build relationships, in a distance for now. Of course, some of you are listening to this during the pandemic. And, bonus question, because I think people would be interested, Ola, but how's it going there with regard to COVID-19 and this pandemic?
Honestly, it's been very tough. This is a family, but I want to be real with you. We don't have more than 2 meals anymore since the beginning of this lockdown. We've had to scrap a meal out of our meal schedule. And sometimes the beverages is not as regular as you think because you have a lot of people depending on you and you want to share the little resources you have. So you have to cut out of your resources to be generous to others. That's what we do. In fact, there are times you see people will knock at your doors, people will meet you on the road, not because they are not able, the means is not there. In fact, I'm trying to raise funds for teachers in private schools. 98% of them have not received a dime since March, and they had families. So in Nigeria, it's pretty tough with families right now. Yeah. And the price of things had gone up. It's not the same price of things it used to be. And when you have such dependent, you need to look for a way to put a smile on them. And not that the government is not doing their best, but when you look at the population of Nigeria, a country of 200 million people, how much of this can the government, an economy that is still developing, will be able to address their needs? So it boils down to individual support. And, well, we all have different aspirations, but we are a compassionate family. We are willing to even take it to 1.5 meal so that will help more families.
Well, Ola, I would like to personally donate to that fund that you just talked about. So if you would give me the opportunity to do that, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, I will send you the link. And if you could help us raise funds through your network there to support this. There's no amount that is much and there's no amount that is little.
Yes.
The beauty of it is that you are saving life. You are putting a smile on life. That is the reality of life. That's just the reality of life.
Amen.
Yes. So after this pandemic is over, right now, we have boys, we are sponsoring their education in schools. Yeah. Absolutely. Who had no hope of getting education. Yeah. We are starting a literacy center for boys who could not read because the knowledge economy, literacy is the currency. If people can't read, can't write, how would they cope in this economy? And we have the number of boys growing up because of the literacy challenge they have at the elementary school, they fall out of school. We are trying to create a center. I'm a literacy activist. We are trying to create a center where they could come twice a week so that we can give these boys that literacy ability to read and write to a level of maybe 8th grade. So they could pick up their life from there. This is the kind of work we are engaged in, we are trying to build. And we'll be doing that, not that maybe we are just doing it. We've just been donated a center in the course of this pandemic, maybe about 2 hours drive away from our home. Once we start the class, if you are supporting with funding, we will snap the pictures, the video, you see them. Once they can read, they're able to read and write, we are done with them. At least we've solved a major problem of literacy for them.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That is perfectly said. You're a literacy advocate. I think that's so amazing.
Yeah, I'm a literacy advocate.
So you're right.
Yeah, my father told me, if you can read and write, your problem is solved. Just look for the right content and the right materials and keep reading. And there's nothing that will be denied of you if you can comprehend what you are reading. And if majority of the boys growing up do not have reading and writing skills, Corey, how would they fit into this economy, this knowledge economy?
Once you cannot read as an individual, it's like the whole world is shut away from you. It's like you're in the dark.
That's right.
You can't have access to information. In fact, like usually I tell him, I said, do you know it's like when someone cannot read, it's like a man in a hole or maybe a man somewhere in need of something, and the solution and the answer to his problem is just right on a piece of paper in black and white. But because he cannot read it, he's still going to be in that problem anyway because he cannot read it. So the solution is right before him, but he can access it because he cannot read.
Wow.
So Ross would believe it's a very serious thing for a child not to be able to read because even self-esteem is greatly affected when you cannot read and write. So even the crime rate we're talking about in boys, eventually that turn out to be fathers, will keep increasing if they cannot read and write.
How do you transform the mind that cannot consume content in the letters?
Yes.
Brilliant. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Very, very important work you are doing. Very beautiful family you have there.
Well, we
Thank
love you
you.
guys. Please send that link. I won't take no for an answer. So please do that. I couldn't think of anything more to support than that mission that you are all on. And this is just goodbye for now. But your beautiful family, thank you so much for being on our podcast together. What I guess is going to be probably the most popular podcast that we ever had. So I'm super excited to get it. Setting a high expectation.
They will. Send love to you all.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Nurturing Fathers podcast. Have questions or comments? Join the conversation at facebook.com/nurturingfathers or email us at nurturingfathers@gmail.com.